Hello, this is Ms. Nichols, and the topic of this video is how do you change the units of a variable. This is otherwise known as unit conversion. So there's lots of times in your life that you're going to want to know how to do this, not just in physics class. You're also going to use it in chemistry class. But aside from classes, you might be in Tokyo or you might be in Japan and discover this road sign, and you might want to know how many miles away Tokyo is. You can see that it's 70 kilometers away, but it would make a difference if you could actually convert that into a unit that you're more comfortable with. So anytime you've ever seen a value with a unit and wished you could put that into a different unit, you're going to want to do a conversion. So the tricky thing about conversions is that we want the units to change without changing the amount of the variable that we have. And so it's kind of an interesting, tricky solution. The solution is to multiply the number that we have by the number 1 over and over and over again. And the reason this is okay is because, as you probably know, multiplying anything by 1 does not change its value. For example, 3 times 1 is still 3. Y times 1 in algebra is still y. If you had an apple and you multiplied it by 1, you would still have 1 apple. The tricky part of this is that we're not going to write a 1 like a normal 1. We're going to write the 1 in a tricky different way. There's lots of different ways to write the number 1. For example, 5 over 5 is equal to 1. So 5 over 5 is another way of writing 1. 2 plus 1 over 3 is also equal to 1. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be writing a 1 in a way that includes units in our values. So we might write 1 foot over 12 inches. And that equals 1 also because anytime the top of a fraction and the bottom of the fraction are the same or equivalent to each other, that makes the entire fraction 1, right? So 5 is the same as 5, 2 plus 1 is the same as 3. 1 foot's the same as 12 inches, therefore 1 foot over 12 inches is also equal to 1. These tricky ways of writing 1 can also be called a conversion factor. And so we're going to be taking these tricky ones and using them as conversion factors to convert one thing into another. So a conversion factor specifically is any fraction that's equal to 1, because the objects on the top and the bottom are the same, that contains different units on the numerator and the denominator. So for example, 60 seconds over 1 minute, those are the same. Therefore, 60 seconds over 1 minute is 1. 16 ounces is the same as 0.4 kilograms, so that's a conversion factor. And 1 foot is the same as 12 inches, so that's a conversion factor. All of those are equal to 1. For any known fact, anything that you could look up on a test or in Google, you can create 2 conversion factors. So if you knew that 1 kilometer was equal to 3,280 feet, you could turn this into 2 different conversion factors. 1 kilometer over 3,280 feet, that's going to be equal to 1, or flip-flop it and make the opposite one, which is 32,080 feet divided by 1 kilometer. That is also equal to 1. Another example, if you knew that 5,280 feet was 1 mile, you could make these 2 conversion factors. 5,280 feet over 1 mile is 1, or 1 mile over 5,280 feet, also equal to 1. Okay, so now that we know what a conversion factor is, let's walk through the whole process. We're going to start with the value we know. In this case, 70 kilometers is what we know. We're 70 kilometers from Tokyo, and then we're going to think about where are we trying to get. We want to get to miles eventually. You got to come up with a plan to get from kilometers to mile. And for every step of your plan, you need to know some sort of fact, like something is equal to something else. Well, from the last slide, I know that 1 kilometer is 3,280 feet, so I can convert kilometers into feet using that fact. I also know 5,280 feet is 1 mile, so I can, once I have feet, convert it into miles with that second fact. So the problem setup looks like this. You're going to start by writing down your starting value, right there, 70 kilometers, and you're going to multiply by 1 conversion factor for each step that we're taking. So the tricky thing is, so this is choosing the correct conversion factor. So this is the conversion factor that I chose to go along with this fact, right? That's the conversion factor that's going to convert from kilometers to feet. But there were 2 possibilities, right? There was 3,280 feet over 1 kilometer, or the other fact, which was 1 kilometer over 3,280 feet. How did I know to choose this one? Well, I was trying to choose a conversion factor that would let me cancel out units that I didn't want to have. in this case, I want to get rid of kilometers. That's where I'm starting. And that's essentially on the numerator of a fraction, right? 70 kilometers over 1, or just 70 kilometers is where I start. So to cancel out that kilometers, I'm going to need to put another kilometers in this math problem on the bottom of a fraction, which is going to let me to cancel it out. If I use this other conversion factor, the kilometers would have been on the top up here. That's not going to cancel out with the kilometers that we had originally, so we're not going to change the units the way we want. So you choose a conversion factor that's going to let me cancel the unwanted units. For the second conversion factor, when we're going into feet into miles, again, there's two choices. We want to pick the right one. So we know that we've got this feet here up on the top. We're going to want to choose the conversion factor that puts another feet units on the bottom, so we can get rid of it and be left with the units we're trying to get to, which is miles. Okay, so that's how I pick the right conversion factors to use. What I've done here at the end of this problem is I've used what's called the commutative property of multiplication that you've probably learned about, that says that 2 times 3 times 4 is the same as 2 times 4 times 3. So you can shuffle things around as long as you're multiplying them all by each other. So the problem we had was like on the top of the fraction, all the things we've got, 70 times kilometers times 3280 times feet times 1 times mile. All these things are on the top of the fraction, top above the line. So I can put them in any order I want. So what I did is I put all the numbers together, 70 times 3280 times 1, and then I put all the units together, kilometers times feet times miles, on the top. Then I went through the same process on the bottom. On the bottom of the fraction, I just have these two pieces right there, 1 kilometer and 5280 feet. But again, I'm going to bundle together those numbers, 1 times 5280, which come from here, right? And I'm going to bundle together the units, and I'm going to put kilometers times feet. Okay, and I'll show you why I want to do that in just a second. The last step in this problem is to simplify. And simplify means we're going to cross out anything, could be a number or it could be a unit, that appears on the top and the bottom of your fraction. And then you just have to multiply and divide the remaining numbers, and we should be left with an answer. So this is what it looked like before. We're going to cross out anything that's on the top and the bottom. I'm going to cross out kilometers because it's on the top and the bottom. I'm going to cross out feet on the top and the bottom. I might even go over here and cross out 1 because 1's on the top and the bottom, just to make my life easier. So I'm left with this little mini problem right here, 70 times 3,280. And over here on the unit side, I'm left with just one lonely unit left, which is miles, which is what I was trying to get. So 70 times 3280 divided by 5280 gives me 43, and miles is the unit that I'm left with. Phew, I know that was a lot. This is a challenging process, and it takes some practice to get good at it. And that was just the very first time you guys have seen it. So rest assured, we're going to do plenty more practice with this as time goes on, but this was, hopefully you got some good notes, and you can revisit your essential question, which is, how do I change the units of a variable? And now all that's left is doing some practice. Please enjoy the comic. Thanks for watching.